For brethren, ye have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. Galatians 5:13. I wanted to start off this episode with a quote from an unpopular book to some and a popular book to others, the Bible. Not a religious man, but I think we can take some of the lessons from the Bible and apply them to how we look as a community to certain situations as a moral compass. Flipping tables, helping the homeless, loving your neighbor, not being hypocritical when we can avoid it, and most importantly, walking in love. I'm joined today by a man who's inspired many, including myself. Others are naturally drawn towards him, and it's not hard to tell why once you meet him. I'd like to introduce my friend, mentor, brother, confidant, and a childhood hero that I did not know until I met him, Hernandez. When I speak of violence, I often talk openly with a positive attitude about it, because violence is a tool to be employed by those of us who are comfortable with it and have a good moral compass. Violence is tarnished by foul and evil individuals on a regular basis. Alan has brought violence to the doorstep of those who would throw you off the top of a building for being gay, bomb your church and call it a religious act, and belittle you for being a woman. He's a lover, a father, a warrior, a U.S. Army Ranger, a veteran, and someone to be thanked not only for their service, but also for their sacrifice, even though he'll probably just brush it off and say it was no big deal. Thank you for listening, and as always, listener discretion is advised. As to we will be talking about war, veteran suicide, gun-related instances, school shootings, and other topics that can and will trigger some dark thoughts. If you're hurting, please reach out to myself or the hotlines posted in the description. Don't pass the pain to those around you who still care. You are worth it.
Are you thinking about making a podcast? Spotify has a platform that lets you make one, and if I can figure it out, you definitely can too. You can create your own content all in one place for free with zero hangups and even earn money as soon as you get started. Spotify lets you record and edit episodes from your phone or computer so you can go mobile, just like I enjoy to do. My favorite thing about it is that you can create video episodes if you wish and upload them to wherever podcasts are heard. You can even set up subscriptions, or if you're like me, listener support options for listeners to help you grow. I 10 out of 10 recommend the Spotify for Podcasters app. Or, why don't you just step over to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your own podcast. All right. Cheers, brother. Thanks for bringing the booze, and thanks for joining me. I'm excited to have this, man. Oh, that's good. Oh yeah! Wow.
Stuff, yeah.
It tastes like a beautiful barrel.
Yeah.
Like it was painted pink and purple or something.
It's exactly. Unicorn colors on there.
Unicorn colors, hell yeah. So why don't we just start with you telling me a little bit about your childhood?
So I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm a child of immigrants from Mexico. They migrated back in the 70s to the United States in Southern California, Los Angeles area. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles till about 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically speaking, what I was doing back in those days was just essentially hanging out with the gangbangers.
Oh yeah. Yes, man.
Yeah, there was a lot of fights, a lot of shootouts and parties in Compton, Watts, and things like that eventually were going to lead me to either prison or dead. Yeah, or just bad path.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a funny story. I went to the high school that had just graduated. This is I was 19 years old, so I graduated high school back in '99. And a friend of mine that was doing hometown recruiting at the high school that I went to decided, he was there, so I saw him, so I started talking to him, and he was, in his fatigues, and just kind of drove, over to him, talked to him for a little bit, and he, kind of gave me the spew of like what it was like to be in the Army. So I'm like, maybe I should do that, just out of the blue one day. Just never.
At least you know who you're getting shot at by.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to the other, right? So I gave the guy a ride home just because we were living the same direction.
Yeah.
And talked to me a little bit more. That day I went home, talked to my mom, like, hey, I'm gonna go join the Army. Keep in mind, I'm a guy that never played any organized sports. I never did any type of physical, nothing. prior to this. Yes.
Were you like overweight or just not
Very
just
skinny.
not physical? So
Very
you super skinny, like
Yeah,
like an
super skinny.
ectomorph?
No muscle mass whatsoever,
Oh God,
man.
like 120 pounds.
Yeah,
type
dude,
thing.
straight, dude. Yeah, no lats, nothing, dude. It was ridiculous, man. People looked at me, they're like, "Are you serious?"
I've been there. I've been there. Oh God.
So that's what made me join. And at the recruiters, it was kind of interesting because we get there and they're like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "You know what? Honestly, I don't know." So that exact day, they take me to MEPS and I take my ASVAB. And I get my GT score back, and granted, I was already set on Army.
Okay.
And I sit down with the recruiter, and they say, "Okay, well, you could pretty much do whatever you want."
Hell yeah.
And so I'm like, "Okay, well, what do you guys got to offer?" They offered me EOD. They offered me a couple different options, and I told them, I don't want to sit behind a desk. If I'm going to join the Army, I want to join the Army for the real experience.
Okay. Yep.
Enter the Ranger contract. And they're like, "Well, you want to be a Ranger?" And I'm like, "That sounds fun. What's that?"
That we gotta go check out parks and
that's
stuff like
what I'm thinking, right? Smokey the Bear kind of status,
Smokey
right?
the Bear. Listen, the current fire ban, respect it or get out. Your discovery pass is revoked.
So that's what led me to that path, right? And at that point, I had no idea what I signed up to. I didn't leave right away. I did the
delayed entry
program, correct?
Yeah,
and
that
was because at the time I was dating a girl. I'm no longer with them, but there was a lot of things that there was her prom, her graduation, things like that I wanted to be around for. And this was, I think I want to say like May timeframe that I had gone to MEP. So I did a delayed entry program. I was able to stick around till August 16th with my day to go. And man, I'll tell you what, it was a eye-opening experience. Just I'm sure like for you, right? When you first now, granted, yeah, and it's just so many different things that come through. I mean, even if you've practiced and you study, you've done drill and DNC, like up until the point where you leave, you're never ready for the first time someone yells at you the way they do, man.
Oh no,
those
it's not like a mom or dad. It's like somebody who you want to be like is actively telling you. It's like your heroes getting told, like telling you suck really fucking bad.
And it's like, and not only that, man, they lay into you in a way that no one's ever like. I mean, they just give you the deepest ass chewing you've ever had, life altering ass chewing.
Things didn't bother me before that either.
Yeah, exactly.
And then this 5'2" guy is like at my chin level looking up to me.
His hat, that was for me.
His hat is in my mouth. Yeah. He's like just fucking spitting all over me, and I'm like, God damn. I signed up to take this shit.
Yeah.
Damn.
And the quit gets in you quite a bit, man. You think about like, man, what? I don't have to be doing this. I don't have to be doing this. I gotta just go back a little bit. There was another individual. Once I did say I was going to sign up, my contract had basic training for infantry. That was my MOS. Okay. Infantry was my MOS. 11 Bravo for Army. That was my original contract. Then I had airborne school in my contract. And then RIP, which was Ranger Indoctrination Program. Now it's changed to RAS, which I think is Ranger Assessment and Selection Process.
Yes, it is.
So it's changed now, but these are the programs you get to actually get into Ranger Regiment, the 75th Ranger Regiment. So it's not just the Ranger tab. This is actually
the 75th Ranger Regiment is prestigious.
This is
tip of the spear shit.
The top of the line as far as light infantry goes, right? I mean, you don't get any better than that. After that, you got Delta Force, right? Green Berets, Navy SEALs, was a pararescue from the Air Force. You got all these different special operations forces beyond all that. But as far as light infantry goes, this is it, right? This is where you're at. So
yeah, you have like surgical work and then you have scalpel work.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So and with these guys, which you could go in as a private. You have to pass the selection process, and RIP is essentially just a So RIP is essentially just a suck fest. They put you through that just to make sure that you can handle the rigors of what it is to be a Ranger. And going through it, I remember thinking, man, I'm never going to do this in real life, right? The war is a lot different than what it was back 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And come to find out, not a lot's changed.
Oh God.
So, and we'll get into that more when we talk about deployments, man. But
okay.
So once you pass RIP, then you get placed in a Ranger battalion, part of the 75th. Depending on what your MO is, you may stay in the 75th Ranger Regiment. But during that time, when I found out what I was going to be doing, I found out one of my friend's grandfathers that I grew up with, one of the guys I was getting in trouble with a lot, was an airborne, just part of the airborne organization, and he had been airborne back in the Korean War.
Okay.
And he was a major reason why I couldn't quit. you know, one thing he told me right before I left was, you know, don't come back without your wings. So that was my driver to at least that point of finishing airborne school. And after that, you know, we would find out what was going on in RIP.
Yeah.
You know, once you figure out, hey man, I could pass up to this point right here, get past basic, get past airborne, you get into to RIP, figure it out, you deal with it, you pass that, and then you move on to your ranger unit. So it was definitely something that I was a good basis for me, because once I got past all that stuff, I'm like, okay man, I could get through anything. And you know, afterwards, you know, being, you know, thinking in hindsight now, it's like, man, that scrawny little kid from LA, you know, that didn't play any sports, you know, could barely, you know, lift anything up, to now it's like, man, I don't know how he did it, but you know, here we are. So
was there some sort of driving factor in the back of your mind at all this, other than I have to do it just for him, or is there something that you feel like is an inherent trait in that shows up in youth, and it might go through your whole life? Like, for instance, I knew when I was a child, when I saw 9/11 happen and my stepdad deployed. He was with the Air Force, you know, the Air Force. So, but all I knew is when I look at this American flag, that's my stepdaddy overseas, stopping the bad guys. That's all I knew. I was a young boy, but that was this huge emotional driving factor. I can still hear the American flag, waving in the wind, and sing the national anthem. I get emotional sometimes because I remember seeing him leave out the front door with all of his bags, and I helped him load them all up in his little his Ford Explorer, and go down to McCord Air Force Base and take the fuck off, and it sucked.
Oh, and you know, to answer that question for like me, that he was a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was actually a pallbearer at his funeral about 4 years ago.
Jesus, I'm sorry, man.
No, and you know, I mean, he essentially died of cancer, but you know, he was older already, but he was the reason why I couldn't quit. You know, that got me to that point where I realized I could actually do this. Before that, I was like, why am I here in this suck? Why am I here dealing with low crawling in mud, right? Hitting the wood line, you know, and just these exercises that they made you do that you knew had nothing more than just, we want to get people to quit behind them. So
kind of weed out the weakness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
So once I got past airborne, I got to RIP, and during RIP, I actually met a master sergeant. In the Army, we don't call, you know, by whatever sub rank it is. It's just sergeant up until first sergeant. But this E8 pulled me and a buddy aside, and we were talking and found out we were from the same town in Southern California, Santa Fe Springs. So I went ahead and started talking to him a little bit more. Turns out he was the PAC NCO for the whole regiment. He's the one that took care of personnel and, like, you know, changed people's orders and things like that. So he was the next step as far as like, hey, motivation to not let people down. He actually got me and 3 friends orders to go from Fort Benning, which were either going to be in Benning or Stewart.
That was in Georgia, correct?
Yeah, correct. Okay. Yeah, so it would have been 1st Battalion or 3rd Battalion, or 2nd Battalion, which we weren't. None of our class was going to go to. He got us orders to come over here to 2nd Battalion.
Solid.
And he told us, he's like, hey man, I got your orders to go, but you know, don't let me down, man. Don't make me regret this.
So he bet on you.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah. And he told me, he's like, you're gonna see people falling left and right, man. Don't quit. Looked me dead in the eyes. I ran into him at a Ranger rendezvous years later, and I was already E5 sergeant, and he comes up, gives me this big old hug, and he's like, I knew I made the right decision.
Solid.
Yeah.
Solid. So he recognized something in you. What do you think that ultimately was? Because I've seen this light in other people throughout my life, where I'm just drawn to it, and it's overwhelming. It's not like, this person's a nice guy. Oh, let's go smoke some weed with him. It's like, holy shit, listen to every single word this motherfucker says.
Okay,
and do it.
You know, I don't know if it was that for him, man. I can tell you this. My approach to him was very, like, not nonchalant, like very respectful, but, you know, direct. Like, hey, do you know who can get us to do this, right? Whereas other people are just go with the flow, right?
So you took initiative.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think that's what may have been the beginning of that. The fact that I actually took the time to say, hey, you know what? I want to end up in Fort Lewis, Washington. Now it's Lewis McChord, right? But he made it happen. And I don't know if it was that, or he just, you know, saw some scrawny kids like, yeah, we'll see what happens, you know, or, you know, maybe he did see some light in me. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but it worked out.
I'm gonna hunt him down and ask him.
Yeah,
like, tell me the truth.
I
can't
handle it. I couldn't tell you what his first name is. I knew it was Master Sergeant Balaga. That's about it, man. But yeah, he was a reason.
Filipino?
He was Islander, Pacific Islander. I'm not sure if he was Filipino or not, but he was Pacific Islander.
I know those last names. They're usually pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know?
they're people of heart and family, right?
Hopefully that's not racist, but they're usually pretty awesome
Can't
people.
say that,
If you got an
man.
awesome last name, yeah, you know, you're
chances
there.
are you're awesome yourself,
Yeah,
right?
I got a basic last name. Okay, so you're in, so you're done with the
RIP.
airborne training.
Yeah,
And
RIP. Yeah, we finished RIP. Got stationed in Fort Lewis, 2nd Battalion, and from that point just went through some basic training stuff as far as like Ranger Regiment and Ranger Battalion and kind of how we do things there, right? And didn't really do much that first couple of months, but in the fall of that year, which is now we're talking about so I joined in 2000, so we're talking about 2001 now.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so here we go. We're in Germany.
It's Stuttgart.
No, we actually jumped into off location and we walked 60 clicks, so about 40 miles to an objective.
That's tons of fun.
That's where I was telling you that the basic training that I'm like, well, we're never gonna do this crap, right? No, we did it, dude. We jumped into a objective. We walked 60 clicks, man, and we I'll tell you what, by the time my feet were done, man, I had blisters on top of blisters on top of blisters. It was just the worst thing I've ever seen my feet.
How big was the group you were traveling with?
So it was a regimental size like element. Yeah. So we actually did and 2nd Battalion was in one section, but it was a regimental exercise. We jumped with the whole battalion in one area and walked. So you're talking about, you're talking about 1,000 people in our.
And this is not Halo. This is just
no static line jumping. Yeah, okay. Static line. Yeah, Halo. High altitude low oxygen. That's free fall. Your basic skydiving stuff that you do like as a civilian too.
Yeah, this is attach your
static line.
Your
yeah, you hook up to a cable.
Okay.
You jump out the airplane and your parachute opens up as soon as you jump out. If you're on a wing or fixed aircraft, you're doing 4-second counts. If you're in a rotary wing, you're jumping. You're counting 6 seconds before it opens up.
Okay, so 6 and 4 is usually the difference. Okay.
Pretty standard, yeah. So we parachute in, we land, we get situated, get in our ORP, and then from there we just walk objective rally point, and then from there we just walk to our objective, and we finished it up. It was just a training exercise.
Okay.
And we were there for total of 6 weeks, but in those 6 weeks it was fall of 2001, and I was in Hohensfeld, Germany, and what they call CNTC, like the training, they call it the box for short. And it was just a training facility where they had Army personnel, but their job, their MOS is OP4. They're trained to be professional bad guys.
Okay.
And no TVs in this area.
I've heard of OP4 before.
Yeah, so no TVs, no radios, nothing. Somebody has brought in a radio to the area, and that's how we found out about 9/11. I'm right there.
So somebody snuck in a fucking radio,
and we were just listening to they're listening to music, and then like breaking news happens. And yeah, you talk about 2001, so digital stuff wasn't really like that big. It was in its early stages, right? So
I remember when that was happening. I was 2 miles down the way, and I was in a school, and all I remember is they brought us out around the American flag, and they had my whole school and told us it was going to change the world forever. And I remember grabbing a little flower. I was a little tight still. I was 2nd grade. I grabbed this little beautiful flower, and I put it on the bottom of the American flag stamp, and I promised myself that I was going to grow up and do something bigger than myself and enlist.
Yeah.
That I didn't know what it was going to be.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to,
You're limited by knowledge, right? At that age. Yeah. But you had to drive at that point, man. Think about it. That's something that not very many people have, right? That selflessness that you sign up. And I'll be the first to tell you, man, people be like, oh man, you signed up. It's like, man, I signed up for a different reason, right?
Everybody has a reason.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
I signed up for a different reason. I was doing bad, man. I was on a path. I was on a highway to hell, essentially, right? And
Tilo said the same thing the other day.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck, dude, I don't know.
It was just, it wasn't, I'd love to be the guy that'd be like, yeah, man, I signed up because like Pat Tillman, right? I served with Pat Tillman. And
you serve with Tillman.
Yeah, he was in 2nd Ranger Battalion.
Badass.
Yeah, dude. And he was he was a guy that signed up, left a life of luxury, and fame to serve his country. That's a hero, right? Like, that's a person that gave up, what I gave up was, potential death, right? so like, I mean, that's the, the thought process behind, but at the end of the day, man, I mean, and not to knock anybody, I think we served, right?
Yeah.
We signed up, we served our country, and we feel prouder to be a part of this, right? I can't tell you how many times, man, like we've gone through, like, being Hispanic. I mean, people tell us, like, like, call whip back in the stores, and like my wife's been called out, stuff like that. It's like, if you had,
I'm sorry, man.
I don't ever bring it up, but
I'm sorry, you don't deserve that. No one deserves that.
It is what it is, right? But like, I mean, if they knew what we've done for this country, it's like probably more than they have. It's like,
did you meet your wife before or after this?
So while I was in,
so she sacrificed along with you.
She did. She did. We dated, and there was a point there during the deployments that I thought we weren't gonna make it, just because I didn't want to have a committed, serious relationship, potentially have kids, and then me die overseas.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough conversation.
And so I'll give you the rundown there. So fast forward, to 9/11 happens 2001. We find out what happens. We come back from Germany, and later on that year, 3rd Battalion, which we call the Hollywood Battalion because they were right next to 75th Regiment, so they got all the cool missions, right? They're the yeah, they're the Hollywood guys.
Oh,
dude.
Was it like news crews going with them?
Oh yeah, dude, there was actually people on the airfield, like, watching them jump. No,
it wasn't not a lot of news reporters that are okay with getting shot at. So let's put that out there.
It wasn't that bad, like in Panama, man. But like, these those particular months, we were kind of crazy. It became really fast paced. I ended up going to Ranger School after 9/11. It was like within a month of me getting back. I went to pre-Ranger, which is back at the 75th, where I did my RIP. I did pre-Ranger there, and then in January of 2022 or 2002, sorry, I got into actual Ranger School. Now, Ranger School is different from Ranger Regiment.
Yeah.
So Ranger School is the gold yellow tab, right? It's a leadership course, and the scroll with the second, and then the Ranger and then the BN on it, that's the actual Ranger element. So tab and scroll is, separate. Anybody can go to Ranger School and get the tab.
Okay.
Not to belittle it, right? Because I met individuals at Ranger School that, in my opinion, were some of the baddest dudes I've ever met in my life, right? That weren't in regiment. They were in, 101st, 82nd, some of the guys were special forces that would go get their tab.
Yeah, just random airbornes.
Yeah, just coming through. And there's also NAPS, non-airborne personnel that go there too, that, because there's a couple airborne missions in Ranger School.
I met a guy from Dev Group. Sorry, excuse me. Not Group. GRU. Dev Group.
Okay.
And he actually had his fucking Ranger tab. And I was like, how the hell do you? Yeah. I was standing there on the bridge with him, and he's like, listen, man, Danny Deach was my best friend. And I was all fucked up ever since he brought his wife on the ship once. So I got to see her, what a wife of a fucking hero looks like.
Yeah,
so it was pretty emotional.
Yeah, I bet, dude. It's so with the difference there, it's you go to Ranger School to get that leadership course. In Ranger Battalion, you can't do anything without that tab.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that's like the bottom baseline qualifier.
Yeah, exactly. So you go in as a private, you learn the craft, you learn the skills, and once you get to Ranger School, that's when you become a leader, right? You become a tab spec 4, corporal, sergeant, staff sergeant. You go on through the process. Coming back from Ranger School, you get your tab. There's many promotion points added to that. So I mean, you could be promotable to E5 at that point.
Yeah.
And I had gone in with like less than 2 years. I guess I was a little bit over 2 years at that point. And we went through the school, graduated, came back in May of that year, 2002, and my unit had already deployed to Afghanistan for the first time. So I came back to empty barracks. We had the rear detachment, we call rear D, that was there. Guys that either hurt, or people that are getting ready to ETS, or different reasons why they're not there, getting kicked out of the military.
Oh yeah.
So you have those people there, but Charlie Company was still around.
Okay.
So we were actually able to catch a ride with Charlie Company, but during there was 3 weeks, right, where we just kind of had to get resituated from being at Ranger School, getting back up, like, to shape, and because your body's just toast by the time you're back in Ranger School. Real quick, Ranger School, man, it's people knock it, and I used to, especially when I was in, but you think about it, what they do is they give you leadership roles, and they make the hardest conditions possible, and seeing if you could still make coherent decisions with lack of sleep, being cold, being wet,
no food.
no food. Yeah. I mean, can you do it? I fell asleep walking in Ranger School in Florida phase.
Yeah.
I fell asleep walking. I was standing up, and I somebody's like, "Hey, hurry up!" And I opened my eyes, and 100 yards in front of me, like the formation was still over there, and I'm like, "Holy crap! I never knew that was possible." So it's they push you to your limits. That's to say, okay, can this person be a leader in
when his
special
medical capacity
operations?
is all jacked up.
Exactly. Yeah. And you learn a lot. You make friends out there. You make lifelong friends in the school. People you keep in contact. I still keep in contact with a few individuals. Social media is great for that. A lot of people hate that too, but it's like, I mean, that's how I keep in contact with people in Florida.
Yeah.
Texas, New York. I mean, you name it.
I got to meet up with someone who I wasn't in RIP or anything like that. But I got to meet up with somebody who deployed with me, and he was a Chilean man, about 235 pounds, probably 5'5". Like, he was stacked.
Yeah.
He did bodybuilding. He was so into fitness, and he's actually the reason I got into fitness.
Okay.
And because I didn't believe I could change my physical
appearance,
being at all.
Yeah.
And then he told me, "Oh, you're just not eating enough." So I started eating more. And he said, "Oh, you're not lifting enough." I started lifting more. And next thing I know, I went from 130 pounds to 200 pounds, and I was like, "Holy shit!" 70 pounds of muscle looks kind of good.
That's mass right
and
there.
It took a while. It took a while, but I didn't think so, because I decided, tomorrow we got it back. Oh shit, tomorrow we got legs, and you learn how to develop your body based off of simple instruction. And I think I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have the foundation of being broken down throughout my military experiences. I have a really unique military experience that a lot of people didn't get. When I was all fucked, I can talk about it for hours, but it was all fucked up. So being around people that told me how to put together my life was really awesome. Did you have people? I know you had some certain leaders you look up to throughout RIP and all that. Was there a certain leader that was there, or was it always changing?
It was constantly changing.
Okay.
It was your cadre stays consistent for the most part. There was a couple guys. One was Sergeant Runcie, and the other guy was Sergeant Tico. And it's actually more pre-range, not necessarily RIP, but these two guys, Tico was actually in Mogadishu.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's in the Mog.
Yeah. And so and he was one of the guys there. Runcie wasn't, but he was another guy that you kind of grab onto these individuals, and you learn to like these are the men, right? These are the men that you see in movies, doing the work and completing the missions. And it's like, man, that's the guy right there, right? So yeah, you kind of follow them, but then you leave that school or that training, and you go back to your unit, and your unit's where you actually really do meet your leadership, right? There's a couple of individuals I won't name by name, but one of my platoon sergeants that I'll go first name, Bernie. He was an inspiration, an extreme inspiration, man. And that guy, I can't tell you how many times, man. Like, I mean, when you think like, man, how could anybody work in these conditions? That guy proved you wrong. And he was a leader, great in combat and back at home. So, you find those people throughout the time, and they are the people that kind of keep you going, right? Aside from the individuals that you initially say, I don't want to let this individual down. Well, then you've that focus changes, right? Like, I mean, because now people are depending on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a rifleman in a fire team, it's like, if you're not covering your sector of fire when you're clearing a room, man, I mean, the rest of the guys can get smoked in that process.
Can I just tap in real quick?
Yeah,
I have a question. So a fire team, which is any more than two people.
Correct.
Because now you're not singleton anymore.
Correct.
You're in two people. You can stack up now. You can cover your sectors in a fucking room.
And I mean, you could clear a room in two people if you understand how to do it properly, right? And we train for all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So fire team is generally your team leader. Then you got your saw gunner. For us, right, in Ranger Battalion. I mean, that's changed now because weapons have changed, 20 years plus now.
Yeah, the saw is badass.
Yeah, dude. 2.9.
We called it saw for a fucking reason. Yeah. The acronym was not just shit it out. Okay,
yeah. Name checks out, right?
Yeah.
so with the fire team, you got your saw gunner, you got your 203 gunner, and then you have your rifleman. So you got a team of 4, and you got 2 teams that make a squad. You got 3 squads and a weapons squad that make a platoon. and so on and so forth.
Second man gets the door.
Yeah, second man fatal funnel, dude. That's usually the guy that
Yeah,
gets hit,
fatal funnel.
Yeah, and that's why you got to be quick and you got to be decisive when you're going through the door. I mean, if you're that first man in there and you don't know if you're going right or left, dude, you got to make sure that you know exactly where you're going and commit to it, because that next guy, he's going opposite you, right?
Yeah.
And he's covering whatever corners he's got to do. Next guy's coming in and following the first guy, then the other guy comes, follows the second guy, and it's just sectors of fire that clear. And if you do it right, man, it's effective. And we did it overseas. Back to like where we're at, by the time we were done with Ranger School, 3 weeks later I deployed. During that time, talking about, my wife, we dated up until that point, and right before I deployed, I almost called it off because of that. We're talking about like, not wanting to have a family, not leaving a kid behind. And
100%.
and I knew at this point we were going to be deployed. Now I can't, your other podcast, man, the people you've had on there, man, I admire incredibly, because these individuals did 18 months, 16 months, man. We weren't under that rule.
Okay.
Because being special operations, man, we did
knife work.
And it was just, hey, go in. We need some missions. We need you to get some HVTs, high value targets. We need you to look up this area, go clear this area out, go pick a fight with these people. I mean, we had one deployment that it took us longer to mobilize and demobilize than it did for us to be in country. We did a winter surge back in 2003, man. This was Afghanistan 2003. We did a month there, and that was it.
Is Afghanistan cold when it's hot over here in the States?
Dude, it's it was winter when we went, and it was
fuck.
It was winter when we went, and we were out there to pick a fight, because a lot of times a lot of these insurgents, right, they kind of bogged down for the winter, and they wanted us to go to these up these ridge lines, these valleys, and these mountainous terrain, and just look for these people and try to get them to fight us.
And in these mountains, I know they show it in the movies, and it doesn't do any fucking justice. You're in a giant fatal funnel.
If you're walking in the lower,
if you're in the valley,
if you're walking the lower
okay.
ground, and a lot of times we were. I did have one of my squad leaders, man. We'll call him Scott. He loved to run, right? That was his thing. He loved to run.
I don't like to run.
Well, he's the one that got me into it, right? When I was in, and a couple of years after, obviously I haven't run in a while, but he would always grab, because cardio was his thing, and he would always grab his squad, which I was one of his team leaders in the squad, and he would take us up to the ridge lines, man. He's like, hey, we'll do Overwatch. Yeah, we'll do Overwatch.
Sweet.
And we'd set up observation points, OPs.
Yeah.
While everybody would crash out at night, like in their areas, we'd be
you guys shit in bags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good times, dude. And so that was actually my third deployment, was that winter surge.
Okay.
They used to call us the goats, man. It was kind of funny. Like our squad leader, and it was an unofficial name, but our platoon leader, he used to tell Scott, he's like, hey man, grab your goats and go to that ridgeline over there and keep Overwatch over us, man. And at first we're like,
embrace
man,
the fucking suck, man.
Sucks, dude. But then after a while, you're like, thinking back, I'm like, probably just a favor, giving us a tactical advantage, right? Being in the high ground and just
I have the high ground, Anakin. Yeah.
You dropped it. I set you up for that one though. Yeah, no, and there was multiple times where we did actually find people kind of watching us, and you could actually see some people, observing us as far as our movements. We had a couple times that they take crack shots at us from these high points, and we had interpreters.
Oh boy,
yeah. That actually, our interpreters were actually pretty good. Man.
Solid, man. I'm happy.
It was before you had the incidents that happened. Like you're talking about 2003, 2004 timeframe. Even 2002, our first deployment, we had interpreters that were constantly monitoring radios.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh yeah, these guys are talking over there because they're talking about us. And they're talking about trying to see if they could shoot us from here.
Yeah.
So there was times where we knew, like, hey man, there's some bad guys out here in these hills, right? But couldn't really do, couldn't do much. So
I lost some friends due to interpreters.
Yeah.
So I don't have weird emotions attached to it, like as far as negativity towards interpreters, because I know every human being is different, and we should not judge a group of human beings based off of one of them.
You can't cast a blanket. because we'd all be fucked at that point, right? And
Yeah.
you know, Mexican, man. I mean, cartels. You think about like what the cartels are like. Man, that guy's probably.
Oh God, all the
that guy's
Mexicans.
probably
Oh God,
yeah, exactly.
absolutely not, man.
So that's
Every
what,
human being
so that's
has
a solid point. Yeah.
capability for
Yeah.
darkness and light. So, damn, man. So what is talking about being deployed? You're talking about your third deployment so far. So what is one thing to take away from being deployed? What changes once you leave the United States? 'Cause I know for me, what changed so much was nothing else matters except for make it through today. As long as I can make it through today, guess what I get to do? I get to go home to my wife one day.
Yeah.
That was my standpoint. Everyone is different. What was it for you?
Being single.
Mm.
Granted, I stayed with my girlfriend at the time, which I'm obviously thankful for, because I mean that woman is a blessing in my life. She's been a blessing in my life. She continues to be a blessing in my life. She gave me 4 children, and we've created this incredible life together.
Awesome, brother.
She like she was a lot of my driving factor coming back to, like you said, like your wife, and it's something that you really do think about, but you gotta kind of have a separation. You can't think about that while you're out, on patrol, when you're on a mission. I mean, you're on the side bench of a little bird, getting ready to land on some dude's yard, to clear his house.
Some random motherfucker's
yard.
Yeah,
and that they're one of the bad guys. I mean, 2003, our deployment to Iraq in the spring. We started off in Saudi Arabia. Our Saudi Arabia, and we were doing cross-border missions before the war kicked off. And then once war kicked off, we pushed into it. And hey, man, big credit to Third ID and Marines that kind of pushed the front lines. We were never in the front lines, right? We were always riding in helicopters or
fucking devil dogs out there.
Yeah, man. Big props to those guys, because I mean they're the ones in the grit, right? They're the ones in the trenches, literally, fighting the front lines. Once they pushed through to Baghdad International Airport, BIAP, we started doing missions out of that. While we were still in Saudi Arabia, we were actually we did the Jessica Lynch mission.
You did?
Yeah. So we were Overwatch for Delta and SEALs as they extracted her. Yeah, and then
that is something that I've actually kept a keen eye on, because it is such a crazy thing.
Well, people people give credit to Jessica Lynch, which, by the way, I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve credit, but there was individuals that passed away that I think deserved a lot of credit, and their names are barely even known. One of the names, sorry, I'm looking it up right here, because it's somebody that I feel like Lorianne Pestiwa.
Okay.
She was a Native American from Arizona. First female to actually die in combat. And her body was in that grave, and she died of her injuries after the fact. She got her head injury during the initial contact of the 507 took the maintenance battalion that they had out there. They took a wrong turn into the Nazaria, and
she got weird.
Yeah, real weird.
Yeah.
So we got wind of that. This was before obviously the work kicked off. We got wind of that, so we actually got into our mode. We got the mission handed down to us, and we were part of that, which is awesome. I mean, one of the things I do, I mean, that people will always know is hey, man, POW, MIA, I'm big on that, and being a part of that mission was even before the fact that this happened, being a part of that mission really did help out. So it was really really interesting. So we're Iraq had a mind of its own, man. I mean, I went to Afghanistan 3 times, 2002 spring, winter of 2000, I guess it'd be late fall, early winter of 2003, and then spring of 2004 we went again. So it was kind of pretty fast and furious.
So what was your deployment schedule like? I know that there's a lot of training involved. When you're practicing to shoot above someone else's shoulder and take out a bad guy versus holding, someone who's not bad. Your training is very essential, and it's like dry firing and shooting.
Exactly. Yeah. So we our unit was we were pretty fortunate. We didn't have to do any type of post duties as far as a gatekeeping or post cleanup or anything like that. We just our cycles were training, S2 just personnel stuff, and then just training again. So when deployment started kind of falling into that schedule, it was essentially just you go on, you mobilize, you get ready to leave, you get all your orders and affairs in order before you leave, and then just go out there 3 months. The longest deployment any Ranger element did when I was in was 6 months in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
and that was
sounds
it.
about
You
right.
know, so our shortest one was 30 days. And I want to say the longest we were anywhere, me particularly, was 4 months in Iraq, and that was, you know, because we had there's a lot of work to do in Iraq.
So is that like running missions? So you like, I know missions are very important part of it is intelligence, and so when
Yes.
you get your SIGINT or your human intelligence or whatever type of
Op orders
intelligence you
for us,
really
yeah,
get.
yeah.
So whatever you get does, and you have to go in and do surgical work on a society where motherfuckers are, you know, drilling through children's hands
Well,
and
they're blending,
executing
yeah,
kids.
they're blending right into the civilians, and it's, you know, it's a lot different from, like, you know, World War II or even the
You
Korean
don't
War.
know who the fucking bad
You
guys
don't,
are.
man. I mean, and back then, what you would look for is like the shoes, right? The footwear.
Okay.
If they were wearing sandals, they most likely were non-combatant. But like, I mean, if you see like boots or shoes or tennis shoes, something where they need to be running and like being a little bit more mobile, like you got to question who that is.
Okay.
Double stacked AK magazines was another one that we looked at too, because it's like, why do you need a quick magazine, right?
100%.
So there's,
is that where they duct tape it together, or
yes,
they have to have the clips?
they duct tape them,
Okay.
man. Yeah, we found a lot of those, man. It was pretty crazy. We it's interesting, man, because you're clearing these rooms, and some of these rooms there's people in there, you know. And in the movies, you know, gunfights are sloppy, and that's one thing that that always gets you, man. Like, you talk to people, and you know, like, oh, I'll draw my gun and I'll shoot a gun out of somebody's hands, or I'll drill them right in the head. It's like, man,
Nah, baby.
Gunfights are sloppy. Real world gunfights are sloppy, man, and it never goes according to plan. My Bernie, right, that platoon sergeant I had, he said it best. It's controlled chaos. It's chaotic, man. There's people yelling, and you forget about the fact that you can't hear anything because everybody's shooting around you, right?
Yeah.
Flashbangs.
Are you wearing ear protection?
Well, Peltors were becoming a thing at that time, but I mean, some of us still wore earplugs and stuff like that. If you weren't in a leadership position, you know, and you don't have to, you know, fire right away. You know, you don't have digital Peltors. You just had earplugs, man. If you even had anything on at the time, I mean, you're driving around. One time we were driving in Iraq on our way to Tikrit to do a mission over there, where we ended up capturing number 4 in the deck of cards.
Solid.
He, on the way over there, we caught the tail end of an ambush for a tank traveling opposite direction on that main highway. And you know the muzzle sound of a machine gun or a rifle from the other end is very distinct, right? And I'll never forget that sound, man. That snap, crackle, pop that you hear. And we didn't have anything, and so everybody starts firing back at the contact, and it's like, you don't have time to say, "Hey, time out. Let me put my ear pro in, or my Peltors
Let me
on,
get my hearing protection.
Yeah.
Let me make sure my fancy sheepdog response gun belt is adjusted correctly, right? No, you don't have time.
Can I check my magazine? My nods are not working right now. So like,
So
there's
you don't have time to you don't have time to load your firearm when there's not a round already in the chamber.
You've got to be. Oh, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a
Okay,
second.
let's run the check.
But you know, like, I mean, there's the factors that, like, you got to remember. Like, I mean, it's chaotic. You're watching people left and right do things, and sometimes you're like, man, why is he doing that? Like, you got to work around that, right? If I'm facing the opposite end of the Humvee and there's contact coming from the backside, I'm not just gonna turn around and start blasting away, right? Because I'm gonna shoot most of my buddies, right? And then don't forget about the fact that there's vehicles on these roads too, that, you know, I may be shooting at other civilians, and I mean,
you're trying to not kill them.
well, think about it, dude. I mean, how would you feel like if, like, you know, somebody gunned down like one of your family members, you know, like, from that invaded your country? You just made an enemy out of that whole man's family or individual's family, you know.
Well, and you have a martyr for what these terrorists are trying to do domestically and overseas.
Correct. You know, and you know, that term, I mean, I never held it against everybody in that country, because I always thought this, man. I mean, you know, one man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter.
100%.
And you know, a lot of these people joined the cause after we invaded, because we killed one of their family members. I saw things happen, not by our unit, but I saw things happen by other units where they would, you know, light up, you know, vehicles with families in them, just because the people didn't know what they were being asked of them, and they wouldn't stop, you know. And come to find out, there was nothing, and just families picking up their groceries or something like that. And you know,
shame.
I saw a lot of tragedy, and I mean, you think about that, it's like, well, all these people that are relatives of this family, they're gonna hate us now. I mean, they when we first got to Iraq, and I use Iraq as an example, because that's where we saw the most action generally, and we also saw a huge change in you know, what these people felt for us. When we first got there, they loved us. We released the oppression, right? Like, I mean, they were free to be themselves. The tyrant was no longer in control.
Was Al Qaeda at the time?
In Iraq, it was Saddam and
Oh,
his
yeah,
regime
that
of
little
like the
bitch.
Ba'ath Party
He
and
sucks.
yeah, dude. And I'll tell you what, man, that guy. I mean, you walked into your home and there was a picture of him in there, right? It was that bad.
Yeah.
But as we stayed there longer, we saw a turn in the behavior of people and how they were not happy for us being there anymore.
Okay.
And it was that did kind of you kind of wonder like, hey man, well, what are we doing? I mean, do we finish this? And where do
They
you
talk
stop?
about that in this weird movie, and it's a really good movie. It's one of my favorites, Black Hawk Down. I used to watch it in the same room with my grandpa, and he told me that not everybody's war is the same. And
It's a great quote, man.
to look at that and see, fuck, you know, they're making fun of Sergeant Eversman at the time, I believe, and they were saying, he loves the skinny. Sergeant Eversman loves the skinny. It's like, well, if you're showing up in another human being's country,
Yeah.
and you're seeing them try to defend themselves, and it doesn't work against this big, huge thing like the Nazis. You're gonna blame a Jew for not standing up against the oppressive thing when they're gonna murder and rape and slaughter your children in front of you.
Yeah, they're the
so.
machine, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't stop that thing, and that's kind of what happened. Like in Mogadishu, like I mean, we went in there to grab an individual, and it kind of went haywire. But they were also able to fight like these individuals that we thought we were superior towards, right? We took we took for granted the fact that like numbers does count for something.
Rooftop skinnies will get you.
Dude, and it was nuts, man. I mean, yeah, I met so one of my funny story, one of the guys that was our at the time our regimental chaplain was Sergeant Strucker.
Strucker?
Yeah, which was Sergeant Strucker.
The Strucker.
Yeah. And
no fucking
I
way,
met him,
man.
dude. Yeah, so he was a regimental chaplain at that time, dude. And we saw him in I want to say it was Afghanistan 2004. It was a spring deployment, spring surge we called it. And we're kind of walking, we're patrolling, foot patrolling, and he kind of passes us up, and he's all saying hi to us, and one of our squad leaders is like, that guy right there, like who's that? Oh, that's a chaplain. And a squad leader comes up to like, yeah, that guy's got more confirmed kills in combat than our whole platoon combined. I'm like, bullshit. He's like, yeah, that's Strucker, dude. I'm like, what?
The one that was shot in the neck.
Yeah,
1 millimeter.
Yeah,
you're dead.
That was Sizemore's character. What's that guy's name? I forgot the character in that one.
I know he was holding in the movie. He was holding his neck. He's like, oh, it just barely grazed him.
Strucker's the one. No, Strucker's the one that told the guy like, hey man, this is what you do right now is what
Yeah.
The guy had the cast right. He didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, or the guy didn't want to go back out, and he's like, hey man, yeah. So that's
what you do right now is made a difference.
Yeah. That's.
I got the names confused.
Yeah. So but anyway, so you meet these individuals out there too. It's a trip, man. Like you guys that you are now like attached to, as far as like you say, your heroes, right?
Yes.
And you're like, wow, that's. I don't see like don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, like all these guys, sports entities, but like those are my heroes, man.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the guys that I looked up to. Like, oh man, like that's.
Somebody asked me who my childhood hero was in when I got back from the Navy.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, you wouldn't understand. And he's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, hard. Dude, you don't understand. I was stuck on an aircraft carrier, and I wanted to be, possibly. I have no problem saying comfortably, and you put me in a light hood. That's all you want. I have no problem saying I would die a horrible death just so one American can live in this country. And all my heroes wear fucking combat medals. They don't wear. Yeah. You don't see them on Hollywood in red carpet. Man. Nah, baby. Because they're dead. So those are my heroes.
They speak about morals and high ground and ethics.
Yes.
From their elevated, protected, spaces or thrones, right?
Or covered or surrounded with guns.
Yeah. Hollywood or these athletes, right? And it's like, they use their platforms like, hey man, no offense, but I watch you for what you do. Your politics, I don't care about, right? And that's for
they're not like us though. They're not like, they don't live in a society where we have the opportunity. You will not see any NBA player like you talk about Tillman.
Yeah, dude.
That is a big thing to do to leave your world of luxury because you have earned it throughout your hard work and intensity. When it comes to sports, that's great, not taken away from it. But you take somebody who does that and they go on their platform and they say that, oh man,
I'm like your hero. No, baby,
You
you
know,
can't.
even deeper
No.
than that, man. It's like, I mean, I don't judge these individuals for making the money that they make or
Yeah,
living the lives
I'm
they live.
happy for them.
I'm
Fucking
happy
A.
for them too, man. What I dislike is when they try to tell me how to live my life
None, baby.
and what I should vote for or who I need to
Mhm.
support or what I need to stand for, right? Again, giving me their moral compass, right? I don't give a shit about what they think, dude. At the end of the day, man, they don't live the life that I live. They don't do the struggle that I do. They don't have to wake up at every single morning at 5 o'clock in the fucking morning just to be to work on time, to feed my family, to you know, I don't need to hear that bullshit. You know, and LeBron James right now talking about like, you know, will I be ashamed to be an American or whatever it is. I'm paraphrasing at this point.
Then don't, big
Yeah,
dog.
you know, that's fine, dude. But look, don't sit here and try to use your platform to somehow say that you stand for something greater. Look, dude, you make millions of dollars. You worked hard for it, billions even in your endorsements, dude. Good for you. Don't preach to me. I don't give a shit. We kind of went off track. Sorry, dude.
It's okay. No, it's good. It's good because just we can tie back in. But first, I want to say that it's so great that these people can sit in their $1 million mansions.
I know, man.
Where they're not where they don't have to worry about the Al Qaeda or Taliban.
Yeah.
Or their mommy and daddy didn't get murdered in 9/11. Or you know, my uncle. Because I have two uncles that have never came back from service, and so I have one uncle that went to the Navy SEALs and never came back, and that was right around 9/11. And then I have another uncle named his last name was Boner. So he got done with I know. He got done with the military, and then he went back. And he was, you know, he was a contract. He was a fucking contract killer.
Yeah.
And he'd go over there and he'd do the high speed low drag shit.
Yeah.
He'd do it all, and he didn't come back. And those people do unspeakable things. They will do things like murder a child. You know, they'll do whatever it takes just to make sure that this person in power cannot create acts of terror in our country. And I think that's fucking awesome.
And it's one of those things. It sucks, man, because I mean, you know, a lot of these individuals that go get deployed and you know they come back. And I mean, I've lost a lot of friends to the demons, right?
Veteran suicide,
and that's one of the big things, you know. But like, you know, there's a bond that you get, you know, when you deploy these individuals. You're also on a different level, right? Because you're trained to be the baddest motherfucker. Doesn't matter what unit you're at or what branch, where you're stationed. You're trained to be the baddest motherfucker in your head, right? Like you think like I am invincible. And at 21 years old, 22 years old with a weapon and a license to kill, you think you are, right? I mean, there's nobody that's going to stop you.
Oh, feel no evil. Yeah.
And so there you are doing the Lord's work in another country. And then all of a sudden you come back. And then next thing you know, you're working a maintenance job at a building, and some building manager's on you because you didn't fucking clean the toilet properly. It's like, dude,
God.
at one point in my life, I was the baddest motherfucker in the world, and now here I am getting yelled at by this cunt because all of a sudden now I can't, you know, clean the toilet properly. It's like so that really does affect a lot of individuals, I think. And you know, one of my saving graces during just the transition to back to civilian life from doing the things that we did was my wife. I give her full credit, and I thank her for keeping me completely, just put together, man. Because I've had some dark times, and you know I've been in, you know, holes that it's hard to climb out of, but man, her and my kids, you know, and just life in general have really helped me out, and that's what's kind of brought me out. But unfortunately, a lot of my brothers and a lot of our brothers didn't have that at the time because they were so focused on what they were, and they couldn't get out of that mold.
100%, man.
And it's tragic. I lost. I have a picture of my buddy Matt. He ran on my gun safe, you know, and he's just flipping off the camera. Not even looking, just fucking flipping off, man. You know, he died 4 years ago of an overdose, and it was intentional suicide.
That sucks, man. I'm sorry.
And you know, you think about that. Another guy killed him, man. While we were in, you know, he struggled. He got RFS released for standards from Ranger Regiment for DUI or alcohol related incident, and you know, he got moved to another unit in Fort Lewis as well, and he ended up killing himself, shooting himself in the head one day, and crawled into bed with his wife. They had an argument, and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm done," and just fucking killed himself right there in bed with her next to him. And it's like, there's these lasting effects, man, that we got to deal with. That there's a price to pay, man. And granted, look, I won't sit here and say that we do this all for glory. Like every single thing that I did over there was because to keep an American safe, because I know some of the stuff is based off of like, hey man, just go to war, go do this, and whatever people have as far as their mind is, well, we went to war to get oil, or you fill in the blank, whatever the conspiracy is. Ultimately, man, we signed up and we went, right,
and someone else didn't get conscripted as well.
Exactly,
or drafted, or however I want people to say it.
Nobody's asking for a thank you, man. It's just, hey, dude, just don't tell me to go fuck off, right? Like, I mean, I feel like I've earned the right to speak, at least. And a lot of these individuals, man, they sacrifice more than just their bodies, man, and their minds get kind of like stuck in a mode. And unfortunately, we have I mean, the numbers don't lie, dude. 22 a day, man. That's a serious number.
And it's also an understatement as far as what I've heard so far.
I agree. 100%.
I think a lot more people commit suicide, and it.
I'm gonna even go crazy, right? And forgive me for bringing this up, but I'm gonna use the COVID numbers because people that died because they couldn't get a hospital bed, that had some other ailment and died, were considered a COVID death, right?
Yeah. So I had a buddy who was shot and killed during COVID, and they listed it as a COVID death.
There you go. Okay,
my friend was murdered.
I'm going to use their scale to, and there's a lot of things that people die of heart attacks, right? And other things that aren't necessarily suicide, but pressure because your mind, your body is just completely whacked out. Granted, there's some other underlying issues as far as health too, right? Mm-hmm. We'll talk about cholesterol all day long if you want. But the reality is, man, I mean, there's deaths that are a result of these instances that aren't documented because it wasn't ruled an official suicide.
100%.
And it's tragic, man, because police by death, I mean, they call it suicide by cop, but like, I mean, sometimes just some dude, like, that not necessarily, like, I mean, they don't consider it a suicide, some guy that just lost it, and carrying a gun in the neighborhood, and next they fucking kill him, rightfully so, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about like the mental
psychotic
health
breaks.
Yeah, the mental health that we need to start focusing on. You attack the spoon and not the eating disorder, right?
100%. I've noticed that a lot, especially when it comes to vets. There was this movie, Shia LaBeouf started it, and I had to shut it off towards the end. I couldn't. I to this day it kind of fucks me up. I start stuttering when I talk about it.
Don't feel bad, man. There's a movie that I watched. It's on a couple different streaming services now, but it was, I think, on either Prime or Netflix. But go ahead. Sorry, tell me, Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf, and he has a psychotic break, and he starts getting all fucked up because he killed this kid who was shooting at him, or was he? Or
yeah,
and it really screwed with him.
Yeah, man.
He ended up getting shot and killed by the military police on base in the movie, and because he's on a psychotic break, man. And his neighbors or his wife or somebody called the cops, and he got killed in front of his wife and daughter, and he was trying to save them from the active shooter, right? But the active shooter was the military police coming to stop him from a psychotic break, and it really reminds me of you have children who's children. You're 18. People say you're an adult now. You're a child.
You're a child.
You're a fucking child. I wish I was more humble and understood. And they go overseas, they sacrifice this and that, and then they come back and they're never whole again. And that was one of those movies, and I had to shut it off right after he got hit. After he got shot. I don't want spoiler alert. He got shot.
It's fine. It's fine.
I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it, man. It fucked me all the way up watching that movie.
I when it comes to that kind of stuff, I do have some triggers, man. I watch some movies sometimes, and like the last one that I saw that like really hit deep was the movie The Outpost. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had to shut it off at the end too.
Yeah. And
I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see the fucking Lone Survivor or
and Lone Survivor was another one to me too. It's like, I mean, because you actually knew people that did that. They're not necessarily those characters, right? Those personalities in real life. Like you actually knew those individuals. Man.
I had a good friend who served with Danny Deeds, and it was him talking about it with me. I spent hours of my life I devoted to listening to this human being interview talk about that. They had him do the swimming challenge, and he was the last man doing it. And he dedicated his swimming challenge to Danny Deeds. Like, these people are directly in connection with with people that we see on movies. And we're like, oh, that's just some guy who died in the movie. No, that was a motherfucker who was overseas trying to kill some of the top killers for the Taliban, for Al-Qaeda, for whatever terrorist organization that wants to put their name out there.
Doing the work, man.
And, when they put in work, they come home and they're all screwed up. And it sucks because we don't take the time to talk about it. What do you think is a leading factor of why these people who devote their life to servitude cannot come back home and be okay?
You touched on it earlier, man. It's the youth, right? From a young age, you enlist and you serve, and your mind's still maturing, man. I'm a firm believer that you don't really mature until you're like well into your 30s, dude.
I'm thinking so too. I'm 29. I got a lot more to go.
I've 41, and I feel like I'm barely figuring it out, and that's the one thing that I could tell you that I see. Your mind's young and it's moldable, and they make you to be this individual, and then all of a sudden it's like you can't be that individual anymore, right? You come back. Have you seen the movie? Oh damn it, dude! I'm losing it. Jeremy Renner, Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker was awesome.
So there's this. It's a fictional story, but it's by the way, Jeremy Renner's character was in Ranger Battalion too, so he's got a combat scroll. No, he he comes back home after his deployment because he goes in mid deployment, right? Because the other bomb tech, the EOD guy died,
got blown up.
Yeah. And so he comes back home after deployment, man, and he's just walking around and he's like, man, this is it. And I'm telling you, dude, I've gone through this. I've
So I don't give a fuck if I'm gonna live or die moment.
I've gone through that portion, and then all of a sudden I'm back home and I'm just like, buying a fucking couch, or doing some weird shit. It's like, dude, I used to kick down doors and shoot people in the fucking face, right? Yeah. And now I'm the guy that just does this. Is this it? And you have to find something else, man, to be passionate about. For me right now, it's my family. I'm big about that. I do have other therapeutic ways of just kind of mentally escaping. I got some hobbies and things that I do that.
Like what would you recommend other people who
are gonna think I'm weird as fuck, dude. So I've always been interested in reptiles. So,
awesome.
So for a while, man, I did. I actually had a large collection of venomous reptiles, cobras, rattlesnakes, vipers, things like that. So
living close to the edge.
Yeah, I don't know if that was what it was or what, dude, but I'm very passionate about that. And it's not a god complex by any means, but it's just being able to care for something that and just kind of focusing on that, cleaning the cages, feeding the animals, and just kind of getting lost in that, and just letting my mind do things and just kind of relax and not focus on the trials and tribulation of ordinary civilian life.
100%.
The stress that comes with
having to navigate maps
or
on a GPS,
or people cutting you off and yelling at you and calling the how's my driving sticker in the back of your van because you drive a company rig and
or being called a beaner when you've gone overseas.
Exactly, man. Exactly, man. And there's so many things that come through your mind. It's like if I really wanted to, I know my action's gonna be faster than your reaction. I know I get to drop on you, and I know you'd be done, right?
Yeah.
And you gotta.
You practice.
You have to talk yourself out of that sometimes.
The Vietnam War Chihuahua.
Yeah. Remember, dude, I'm old as fuck now, right? So like at this point now, I'm not the same angry guy that I was before. But it takes a little bit of time, man, and that's where I think people struggle with is they can't get past that crest. And again, I mentioned it before. My family, my wife, huge factor in me being mentally stable and healthy, man. And that woman has been a godsend, and I thank God every single day she's around.
That's beautiful, brother.
And my children are equally as important in my life. And a lot of things that I do now is not necessarily so talking about like who you don't want to let down or who you're doing things for. Now it's for them. Mm-hmm. They're the reason why I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work and do the best job that I can do to continue staying employed and get the things and do the things and have the fun and put them in the sports and be there for them and cheer them on and whatever it is they want to do, man, and be their motivator.
Well, let me know when they got some games. I'm coming in.
Yeah, dude, I'll let you know, man.
I bring the megaphones. My mom got me a pink megaphone.
Let's do it, dude. Let's do it. My youngest just started Pee Wee football. He's 6 years old.
You have a son.
I have. Oh, dude, I have 3 boys and a girl, man.
So you're a girl dad.
I'm a girl dad.
And you have 3 young individuals that look like you and act more crazy probably than you at their age.
Yeah, I have one, my 13-year-old son Noah. So I have a 16-year-old, a 13-year-old, and an 8-year-old daughter, and then a 6-year-old son.
Okay.
So Noah is the one. He's a 13-year-old man. That he's gonna be the crazy one, man.
He's gonna be the crazy one.
He's the one I got to harness a little bit, man.
Yeah.
Because
well, what is it for him? For martial arts, or have you done any of that?
Football
stuff?
and lacrosse for him.
Solid.
And then the oldest just does football for the high school right now. And then Breeze, our daughter, she does cheer. And then Sammy, our youngest, he does.
Do you know her routines?
You know what, man? She just started it this year. So
okay.
She just started ballet before.
So you're not like a cheer dad yet.
No, but I will be, man.
Okay.
I will be, man.
I'll
I'll be there cheering her on as she's cheering. You know.
I don't think there's anything that can be deemed as more special than a father being present in their child's life or being super active.
Agreed.
I've always wanted that, and I'm super excited to have children. I haven't had children yet, but when I do, I know that I'm going to be super active, super present in life, and I'm going to be over the top, and I'm going to be overwhelming. I can tell you this, motherfucking dads, get on your game, dads, because I'm going to know the motherfucking cheer steps.
I'm going to tell you this, man, and I'm generally like very kind of careful about making these assumptions or like this kind of, but the way you approach your life, man, I have no doubt at all that you will be a great father, dude. And it's
you didn't tell me you were gonna try to make me cry, man. Come on.
No, man, and this is one thing that you gotta understand, man. Like, I mean, it's easy to see the people that like just I mean, they may be kind of like this. Here's the tablet or something. I could see a present individual with you, man, and because you're present in your life with your wife, it's evident in your life and yourself, right? The dedication you put. I can't imagine you not putting that same amount of time and dedication to a little human being that you and your wife made. So and it's when that day does come, man, that child will be a fortunate individual. So
I've never heard anything that kind of my entire life. So thank you, man.
No, absolutely, man, absolutely. So look forward to it, brother. Hey, man,
Jesus Christ.
I hope we covered everything you wanted to today, man. But I'm always down to just come in and chit chat and BS, dude. So
100%, man. Yeah. Thank you for stepping on this, and thanks for opening it up, and even more so, sharing your personal things that you've you kick down the door on a lot of things, man. And I don't know anybody who's just gone through, I don't know, Ranger school. Just I just want to get out of the gang life, man.
Yeah, I know, man. It was kind of weird, dude. You'd be surprised, man. There's quite a bit of individuals I met like that, man. But I'm telling you, man, it was not what I expected as far as like where my life was gonna go when I was 18 years old.
Shit, brother. Well, I appreciate you and much love. Thank you so much for having me, man.
For Andrew,
man. 100%. Zulu. So one thing I wanted to touch on that we didn't really dive into is able-bodied males sign up for the military. I'm not saying that women aren't great in the military. I'm not saying that any human being can't be great and operate a firearm. I actually believe that women should operate firearms more than men. And that's frowned upon by society. They
generally need to use them more, right?
Yes.
I mean, they're the ones that are going to be attacked more by
100%.
trying to be overpowered. Yeah,
by sorry ass motherfuckers. Yeah, exactly. And it sucks.
Agreed.
But what is the need for modern day? Do you see a need for and a necessity for modern day warriors in today's society? Because I see a lot of people who are way too comfortable, who don't like uncomfortability at all, who aren't even able to create a fire or shoot a gun, operate a firearm at all, because they're scared that the politicians that are surrounded by guns will say, "Oh, you don't need this," and they're there's a lot of people, a lot of children that are worried about that.
I absolutely see a need for that. I mean, we talk about like leadership, right? And we need individuals that will actually take charge. Speaking of like future and doom and gloom, like I'm not an individual that believes in particularly like that the world's going to end soon here. I can't, right? I have a family. I have to hope that there's a future and that my kids will have a future beyond all that.
Yeah.
And that said, if there was a societal collapse that were to happen, I mean, you have to hope that there's going to be a future beyond all that.
Mm-hmm.
a rebuild. So, we do need warriors within our society, man. I think that's incredibly important. Basically, you have people that are able-bodied individuals. Whether it's and warriors. I will tell you this, man. Warriors is a blanket statement. It could be male, female. An individual that takes charge, that knows how to lead, that can do things. That the vast majority of the population can't, right? I mean, we live in a densely populated area, right, in the cities, right? I'm a city boy, born and raised, man, and I will never lie about that. Did I learn a lot of stuff in what I did? Absolutely. But we have our country counterparts that, I mean, at age 7 or 8 years old, could start a fire. They could get a bow and arrow and take a rabbit down. It's like, I mean, there's things that I think
They can milk a cow. They can
exactly,
hunt.
exactly.
They can end a life.
They could grow plants. These are things that will eventually be needed, man. And being a city individual, I'm not fully savvy on all this stuff, man. Absolutely, I mean, now we do need also trigger pullers, right? We need individuals that could actually, like, that can form fire teams and develop tactics and create situations like that. Not that it's going to be needed today, or hopefully it'll never be needed. But do we need to have these individuals? Yeah, because these are our neighbors, man. These are the people that if something were to happen, we could knock on their door and be like, hey, man, I got my family, you got your family. Let's get together. Let's help each other out.
Yeah.
In whatever need possible, not just necessarily tactically, not just for food, everything. It's just something that we can't depend on the government just giving us everything, man.
100%.
We have to be able to provide for ourselves.
I'm a true believer in that, because absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely.
So that when you have a government individual who people are looking to for leadership, and they have this fucking blank check that says, "Oh, do whatever you need to do," I believe that if there's corruption involved, like I know myself, if I was in a position of power like that, like if I was Hitler, or if I was whatever,
I think we'd all like to think
we'd all like to think we'd be the good guy.
Yeah, but reality
surprise,
reality
bitches.
is, man. Yeah, we're human, man, and we're flawed, and we 90% of us would probably take that other route, right?
Yeah,
and
be
a tyrant. So I mean, and it's no judgment on anybody. I'm not casting judgment, man. But that's who we are.
Yeah,
that's how we're made. That's how we're built.
We're creatively flawed.
We're factory wired to be that individual, and breaking that mold and being the Pat Tillmans, right? The individuals that are selfless, the people, the Jay Blessings, right? In my life, I mean, fill in the blank, Sergeant Barraza's. Like, I mean, there's so many people out there that you can, Ricardo Barraza. Sorry, I said his rank. That can fit that mold and say, hey, man, these were the people, these were the examples. They wrote that blank check and said, not on my watch. And those people are still out there, man. One of the things I said, and I'm paraphrasing now, man. It's funny. When I started drinking and started posting things like during Memorial Days and stuff like that, like there's things that
someday.
It's a tough day, man. But I do find myself, really digging deep and thinking about, like, just times that I've when I served and what's gone on. And if you give me a second here, I gotta find this particular post, man.
Okay.
But it's on my old Facebook account, by the way. And there's truth beyond any type of like means for me, man. With this post, it's something that
I find a lot of wisdom from other people randomly just put, even in the middle of the night. I'm a middle of the night kind of guy. I wake up about 7 times a night. I usually have really bad night terrors.
Yeah.
And my wife, unfortunately, has suffered the repercussions of some of those night terrors, and I owe her my life in gratitude for sticking with me via my violent
my
violent nightmares. I don't know how to say it any other way. Now, occupationally, thankfully, I was never in a combat experience, and but before the military, I've done things that I can openly say I regret, and openly say I shouldn't have been a part of. I was way too young, and I couldn't deal with this shit afterwards. And one of my good friends says, you never know who you are, who you should be, until you try to be a better person, and then you're gonna realize how fucked up you really are. And,
I like
and
that,
they caught
man.
me in my sleep.
I like that, man. I like that, and there's mounds of truth on that. I can't find that quote, but it was under the guise of, like, you know, my time in my time in the military in regards to, like, my life was you know, very short,
Mhm.
you know, on the scale of it. But, you know, in that short time, those short 4 years, man, I walked amongst giants. I walked amongst the baddest, fiercest individuals to walk this planet, man. And, you know, some of those paid the ultimate sacrifice, and you know, this world is a lesser place for it. But there's still people out there that survive, man, and they're out there. And those individuals, man, are making this world a better place. Not through politics, not through some sort of ideology, but just through their fucking actions of just selflessness and courage and just being good human beings, man. One individual in my mind, I won't say his last name, Chris. Um, the guy, after, you know, he was a hero, he was a stud in the Rangers, but, you know, keeping up to date with his family and in social media, like, man, the guy's just a stellar example of what a human should be, man. Not that anybody's less or any better, you know, but man, I look at that guy and, like, man, I wish there was more Chris's in this world like that.
Yeah,
And
I've been there, man.
and that's, you know, that's our life, man. I mean, we signed up to serve, and we met individuals, you know, and going back to that original just kind of conversation that you mentioned, like, about, like, you know, the people we grab onto and our heroes and the people that we want to not let down. Like, I mean, every single day, man, you live for something, right? And sometimes it's these individuals, and being a better person, not just in front of everybody else, but when nobody else is looking.
Mm-hmm.
That's character, man. And
It's character and it's honor.
exactly,
A whole lot of things.
and it takes a lot of I think just strength that we got it within us. We just have to dig deep, man. So yeah,
I agree 100%. I think that we need to continue to mold warriors, and if we don't take the time to teach our young men and women how to build a fire, how to operate a firearm safely,
yeah,
how to not shoot another person next to them by accident. I've lost cousins, I've lost family members to that shit.
you know, man, and this is something that, like, people may actually, especially with the current topics, right, with what happened in Uvalde and you know, Buffalo and
Mm-hmm.
and Illinois, you know, people may not agree with me, and I'm okay with that.
That's
right?
okay. Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, they don't live my life. They don't
They don't
walk in
have.
my shoes.
They've never probably gone down range.
They don't have the how to put it. Like, they have the luxury not to live in my life, right? Like,
And they should be thankful.
and so
Yeah.
so that said, like, every time a child of mine turns 8 years old, I buy him a Ruger 1022,
Yeah.
and Dad takes him out to the range individually,
Okay.
and I teach him about gun safety the same way I was taught about gun safety when I was in the Army.
Okay.
I don't yell at them and make them do push-ups, right?
Okay. but you teach them not to harm themselves.
How about this?
People.
How about this, man? Just basic things. Every time you're handed a firearm, what do?
Clear and safe.
You clear it, make sure it's on safe.
Yeah.
And then what do you do after that? You make sure that it's either pointed up or down, because you still treat it like it's loaded.
Yeah.
And then after that is, you never pull your finger on that trigger. You don't flag anybody. There's infinite amount of things that are there are drills that you can do with them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
That you teach them. And my older boys now are playing Nerf wars with my younger kids, and they teach them about trigger discipline. They teach them about flagging their you know, somebody else, and they teach them about, like, multiple things. And it's like, these are my boys that I originally taught, and now here they are teaching them.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like it should be, right?
100%.
They lose that portion of like, oh man, I need to like they see a gun, oh, what is this, right? It's nothing new to them anymore.
Yeah.
It's to them, it's like, oh, this is something that like we know about. And every time I grab a gun, I'm gonna grab it and check to make sure that there's no round in it. If there's a round in it, then obviously drop it, right?
Yeah.
And one thing my 13-year-old found out, a couple years back was like, you don't just check to make sure there's a round. If it's a pistol, you take the magazine out first, then you clear it, right? Like there's the things that that you teach them, and that's going back to what you're saying. Like, I mean, you need to make sure that they know how to do this stuff safely.
Yeah.
Don't just start pouring gasoline on something and just be drenching gasoline and light a fire.
We all fucked. I had a really difficult time. I was raised differently than most people. I had a lot of hands off growing the fuck up to do with my parents. My stepdad was occupationally a warrior.
Yeah.
He worked at Boeing, and then he worked on C-17s.
Yeah.
Like, that was his life. And then he worked at Boeing, and then he worked at C-17 with the Red Knights over there at
I used to jump out of those
McCoy
things, man.
Yeah, McCoy Air Force Base. It's
dude,
just wild. They transported apparently C-17s can transport bull sperm and Alan Hernandez. Surprise, surprise. It's kind of wild, but
not tied together. But I got 4 kids.
Not tied together. But hey, it was really, really screwed up, and I think about it all the time, like almost every day. I think about it right now. Every time I look at a gun or think about a gun, of my neighbor handed me a fully automatic Mac 11. Or excuse me, Mac 10. Sorry, there's a big difference between the two. Don't get it mixed up, bitches.
Dude, Mac 10, dude. Westside Connection would be so pissed right now, dude.
And they handed it to me, and it was a little neighbor girl, and she would just show me, oh, here's this thing, right? And then oh god, that could have been it for me.
Or her.
His rage was so right. His rage, like, why the fuck is this child who doesn't know about firearms handling a firearm?
Yeah.
And that, I don't know if it was a big wake up for him or not, but he took me shooting. I shot some cans, and then it was start from there. I don't want to make. I'm not talking shit about him, but I don't want to make the same mistakes.
I don't take it as that.
Yeah, but I don't want to make the same mistakes. So I'm going to make sure that my wife's 10-year-old little brother, man, you hand him an AR-15 right now, and he will shoot everything you tell him to, and not shoot everything you tell him not to.
Yeah.
And he does it well. He'll also tell you how to make sure the firearm's clear and safe. Same with all my pistols.
Yes.
Because he's around me, so my firearms are considered, in his mind, his firearms.
Yeah.
So his gun safety is the number one thing, because I don't want to hear another gun belching wail of a woman telling me that my cousin's been murdered, and that was a difficult thing for me because people can say it's murdered. When there's a gun on the other side of it, someone's dead.
Yeah.
And so I said it's murdered because of that, but losing a cousin to gun violence and gun ignorance was an emotional experience for me as well.
And the tragedy is like, I mean, it's so avoidable, right?
It's so avoidable.
There was a video I saw online, man, and unfortunately, man, I've been tainted as far as like desensitization to like a lot of like things, and one of the things that I that I get clips on a lot is of accidents with guns. And there was this one video of these kids. They could have been more than like 12 or 13 years old, man. It was a 2 cousins, male and a female. They're in the bathroom, like, videotaping themselves, like doing like whatever Snapchat, whatever it is these kids do nowadays.
TikTok.
I feel like so old too when I see whatever.
Man, the motherfucking TikTok gun videos are the worst, man.
Shit.
Take that shit down.
So here's what they're doing. They're playing with this Glock with a drum, 50-round drum.
Oh, 50. Oh,
and
no,
they're messing
baby.
around, taking pictures, and she's looking at it, and she's got her finger in the trigger, and she pulls the trigger as it's pointing at her cousin's head. Cousin drops down, dead.
Yeah, that's it.
And she sees what happens, and not like 5 seconds later, she grabs a gun and she points at her head and kills herself too. Yeah,
that's deep.
And I thought to myself, first of all, how'd they get their hands on that gun?
Yeah, lock your shit up.
And these are the numbers, by the way, that people use in propaganda and as triggers or punchlines to get to pull people's heartstrings to say, hey,
to
man,
get you to vote for me.
yeah, hey, man, I'm going to stop this gun violence, right? Gun
Don't stand
violence
on the
kills as many
graves of
people.
don't stand on the graves of children.
These are accidents
Mm-mm.
and people, you know, there's incidents that happen that hey, man, why was that gun in their hands to begin with, right? And that's where it's just difficult to understand. But that said, man, I mean, knowledge is power when it comes to that stuff, and knowledge is life. My kids will know it. Hopefully I live long enough to teach them as much as I can.
Well, you know what? I think you got a good chance, man.
I'm hoping. Remember, man, occupational hazard in what we do.
You live in Washington State, okay? You live in Washington State. This is the place where they don't even want guns in your
I know,
hands.
man, but
You're doing a great job.
I'm thinking more along the lines of like actual like work now, you know, what we do,
Well,
man.
you remember since they passed that 10-round magazine ban, it's really
we're gonna be a lot better now.
You're gonna be a lot safer.
Dude,
I
need more whiskey for that fucking.
I can name off quite a few occasions where I've been on the receiving end of firearms that are at their standard capacity and they're just shooting rounds at me, and I can tell you what it feels like, and you know what it feels like to have fucking bullets shot at you. Doesn't matter if they're in this country or they're another fucking country. When you have things shot at you, hey, dude, everything goes in the garbage.
Projectiles.
Yeah,
don't matter whether it's in fucking Whittier, California, or in goddamn Asadabad, Afghanistan, dude.
100%.
Like, it don't fucking matter, man. Those fucking projectiles
shit gets weird.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Shit gets weird.
Hey,
Jay Inslee ain't gonna save you.
Shout out to Whittier, by the way, man. If you assholes hear me from out there, man.
Yeah, these people putting things on paper in black and white. I'll never understand. And they never understand it.
They, you know, most of these people are ignorant to it, right? And I don't use ignorant as a derogatory or insult, man. They're just unaware, man.
Lack of knowledge, yeah.
That's all it is.
Like an experience.
And they don't get it, and I wish they did, because if they did, I think that their eyes would be different. I want to talk about something if we have time, man.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
This is one thing that I don't think a lot of people ever consider, right? When we talk about banning weapons, right? And I read an article today about rescinding like the Second Amendment.
Yeah, that douchebag. I want to call him a douchebag because he was horrible.
Female. It was actually horrible. It was a female. Actually,
oh, sorry, different lady. Okay, never mind. Yeah,
and I say female. Relatively speaking, folks.
Relatively speaking, yeah, so does it change.
Yeah. That might be different.
We're here to be inclusive.
So here's where I stand with that, right? And let's talk about two examples, right? Because I have a lot of friends that are and I have friends in a literal sense, man. I mean, I'm not being playful about it. Like, these are good friends of mine that are completely anti-gun.
Yeah,
and
I'm happy for them that they can. Feel like
it's
safe.
And you know, honestly, man, I mean, we're all entitled to it, right?
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I signed up and did what I did, and why I can't continue to do it, because you could walk away, right? You get court-martialed, you get kicked out, and say, "Fuck it, I'm done." They won't send you to prison. It's not true what they say, but you'll get a dishonorable discharge. But I stayed, and you know why? Because I wanted to have a voice, man, and me having a voice and me doing what I did also gave other people a voice, man. And people have their First Amendment rights. They have the Bill of Rights. They have the ability to say whatever they want to say and believe what they want to believe, and that's the beauty of this country. But I always ask these people, I'm like, okay, let's say right now you made every single gun illegal in the United States, every single one. Not a single one's allowed anymore. No one's allowed to have any more guns. And you have a 2-week period where everybody has their opportunity, and there's gun collection points where they're going to be collected and destroyed. And I say, let's say you have that. That happens. And every gun that was going to be turned in, I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are going to hang on to their guns, right? Mm-hmm. But everybody that was going to turn the guns, and then they say, okay, from this point on, everything you have is now legal. You will be a criminal if you have this weapon. Any weapon. Are we going to go the way of Canada? Or are we going to go the way of Mexico?
Well, you got a lot of good victims. If you're talking about realistically, we have a lot of good victims now in America. Because a lot of people trust the government. I'm part black. I remember the Tuskegee.
No, you're not.
I remember,
Lying, dude.
yes, man. I
Get
know
the-
it's overwhelming. I know. I remember the Tuskegee Project. I remember.
Yes. Oh my
I
god,
remember
dude.
I remember that every single every single gun right can be easily traced to stopping runaway slaves and people who have gained their freedom since the slave days from stopping them from having firearms. And I really remember the AR-15 ban originally coming around. Had something to have to do with California and the gangs there that stood up against the tyrannical cops at the time, because cops aren't tyrannical now, but tyrannical cops at the time who were murdering black people just because they felt disrespected as a white man. But times have changed now, and I think that I could honestly say the Second Amendment is more important than any for Black Americans, for Hispanic Americans, for Asian Americans. If you're in America and you're a different skin color than white, it's your time right now, motherfucker. Because
that's what I don't understand. It's like the people preaching about or for example,
you don't see no colored folks saying that shit.
Tell me one thing, dude. Tell me one thing. What's the number one killer of Black Americans 19 to 26?
Gun violence, black on black.
Black on black, dude.
Yeah,
why don't we talk about that shit? Why don't we talk about that shit?
Because Little Dirk's got this new hot song about killing the other homie from down the way on 63rd. Sorry, 63rd.
Why? Don't get it wrong.
63rd. I don't want to get it wrong. O Block 63rd. Chicago. My friends from there.
Why
I haven't
don't
heard from
we talk
years.
about that though, man?
Well, I haven't heard from my friend who I served with in years who went on leave back to this area called Chicago, and it really is interesting to me that, you know, if we have gun violence and it's acceptable when it happens between two people, and let's use it over here for something else. We cannot stand on the grounds and the graves of dead children and say we stand up for something. I've lost a fucking cousin to gun violence. He was a shooter in the Marysville Pilchuck High School. My cousin. Yeah. A girl I used to babysit was one of the victims in the shooting. I know what a fucking mass shooter looks like. I know what it's like to be overseas and see my sister, and I know what it's like to be overseas and wonder if my sister is dead or not. I know these exact same feelings that all these parents are feeling right now. Only thing thankfully, my daughter didn't get murdered. But you know what? I thought my sister was dead, so I felt these feelings, and I can tell you right now, the best way to stop these fucking active shooters from happening, if we're being real. And I'm not a politician. I don't stand on the graves of people and ask for you to vote for me to stop something.
Use them as a punchline.
I don't use them as a punchline. I know what the weight of this shit is. I'm related to people who have murdered and who are on the receiving end. I used to babysit little Zoe. She lived not even 2 streets over from me. Come over to my house, hang out with my sister in my house. I used to babysit them. So I know what it's like to look at a picture of someone and knowing they're removed from life via a violent shooting. It doesn't matter how many bullets you have a gun. Doesn't matter how many bullets you have in a magazine. None of that matters. But I can tell you what does matter. An individual with their opinion. I'm going to walk into school. I'm going to shoot somebody.
A well-intended individual.
Yes.
That is willing to stop and sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
A warrior.
100%. Anybody could have stepped the fuck up.
Eddie, this is the reason why we started. We continued on this conversation.
Yeah, we fucking shut this shit down.
And why did because we had to make sure we understood that hopefully somebody hears it. You know what? Majority of people that hear this may not agree. That's fine. But hopefully somebody else understands and say, hey, you know what? We need these individuals out there because these are the people. You know how many people were stopped from entering that school to stop that shooter?
Talking about Uvalde or what?
Yes.
Yes, Uvalde. Well, I think the number was over 50. Is what I'm reporting.
And there was about 20 of them that got actually arrested and put in handcuffs.
Yes, and they actually tased an individual trying to stop someone shooting. So if you're just want to put out a disclaimer, if you're shooting another human being, and I see you within my premise, and everybody I know, all my family, my friends know this, I will die 100 times over to make sure one child, no matter how young they are saved. And you know what? And I will gladly see 100 officers go to their grave, and praise them as heroes, versus seeing them. You know why?
You know why?
Because those officers didn't deserve to sit outside there.
No, you know what they did? They signed up and said, "I will defend your life or property before 100%. My own life."
100%.
And guess what? I've gone through the selections. I've gone through the process, and guess what, man? that's not my life.
Yeah.
You know, for other reasons, but that's not my life. But the reality is, if you chose that lifestyle and have friends, very intimate friends
Yes.
that are police officers right now in multiple areas, and this is hopefully not taken in a negative way, because I'm not bashing law enforcement.
Yeah.
But the individual that made a decision to say, hey, don't go into that, you know what? If there was even somebody that was already shot in there, and let's say everybody's already gone and you're worried about it, guess what, dude? You don't belong doing that line of job.
It really 100%. I can't put in words. You know, I wish I could put an exclamation point on there, a violent exclamation point, because that is so important that people fucking realize. I was absolutely disqualified when I tried to talk to a couple cops about joining the police force, leaving the elevator union. And if you hear this and I'm getting in trouble with the elevator, oh well.
It's all right, man. I got your back, dude.
Oh, thanks, brother. I tried to leave to the cops.
There'll always be a job notice for you. So
I appreciate it, man. I tried to leave the elevator union to go be a police officer, and I talked with the cops, and they said that I would disqualify based off of what I've done in my life. There's nothing, if I want to serve this community, and a lie detector test is going to stop me, because I refuse to incriminate my friends. So
yeah, I got you.
And the things I've done in my life are horrible, but I can be better, and I want to do better.
You are being better though.
Right? They won't let me sign up to join the police force, and I can respect that. I get it. I wouldn't want, you know what, push comes to shove, I wouldn't want someone who makes mistakes to be a cop either, because I wouldn't want you to make the mistake of not walking in and fighting, having a gunfight with somebody.
Agreed. Here's the reality though, man.
Yeah.
We've sat here and talked about these individuals. Dude, I've walked into rooms not knowing if I was gonna walk out.
Yeah.
And guess what? There was no children in there in a school. And I walked in there just knowing
balls on the line, yeah.
That the only reason why I'm walking in there and doing what I'm doing is not for what's in front of me, but to make sure that the people behind me, grown ass people, are gonna live.
And that fucking flag on your shoulder as well.
And I would more than gladly walk into a room that had dead children already in it and sacrifice my own life, knowing that at least if I walked in there, I could save one of those kids.
Just one.
I've already done it. And people wanted to do it. And there was off-duty cops that tried to get in there, and they weren't allowed to do it. And that was...
the Border Patrol agents.
They did it. Bortek said, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm going in. You could fucking get rid of me. And you know, guess what those guys are? They're fucking heroes right now, dude. Because they saved some lives. So.
Fuck the optics. Fuck it all. So, do you have... I know we talked about it kind of offline and off key. You having... people say PTSD is one word. I see it as a facet of things, and I see it as something you can come back from, and something you can build off of, and something you can heal from. Yeah. Do you carry any of your war scars with you?
They're I think psychologically we want to think we're better, right? And we can handle it. Reality is this, man. I mean, you talk to other individuals, you talk to some of these studs that did 18 deployments and throughout their career, man, that I still know and I still talk to, and God, I look up to. You talk to these guys and they'll tell you no, right? But even the stuff that I did, man, like, I mean, between you and I, like the conversations you and I have, the people that I talk to on a daily basis, they would never know, right? I'm good at hiding it. But lay in a bed next to me and just wait there after I fall asleep and know that I wake up in a jolt about 6 to 7 times a night. This is no joke. Ask Rosie about this, dude. And I've woken myself up. The other day we came back from Banks Lake just hiking, and camping and going to the lake and all that stuff. And we hung out and we got back on Monday afternoon, unloaded the vehicle and got ready to go. And man, I remember waking up because I jolted and my back cracked. And that's what woke me up. It wasn't that. It wasn't the jolt. But I can't sleep a full night without actually waking up in a jolt. So do I suffer from something? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I have coping mechanisms? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I've noticed with you especially non-abusive ones. So you don't like overdivulge in alcohol. You don't focus on you actually focus on
Okay,
positive things. And
can we?
you help people.
Yeah.
You help people. You teach
Yes,
people. You
yeah,
talk to other
but let's
humans.
let's brush on alcohol, man,
Yeah.
and let's not. I won't sit here and sit on this throne and say that I'm not without flaw, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with alcoholism.
Okay.
I do. My alcoholism is something that I am able to control right now. I'm not saying I always be able to control. It's like keeping an exotic fucking like big cat
Okay.
and knowing that you can't fully control that thing, but you can at least harness it for a certain amount of time, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to do it for the last fucking 18 years.
Well, damn.
But you know what is also like my saving grace is the cage that I have that cat in, which is my wife and my family.
Mm-hmm.
And the stronger that cage is, the longer that cat stays in there, man. And that's what keeps me from fucking drowning in this bottle of Booker's that we're drinking today.
Yeah.
Which is some good shit, by the way.
Oh, it's really good, man. I tell you what.
and man, I'll tell you this, man, and I could tell you without any doubt or any type of like regret, like I have no other vices, man, aside from nicotine every once in a while when I get too fucking loaded, right?
Yeah.
But beyond all that, man,
social smoking, right?
but beyond all that, man, it's like I don't have to do that stuff. I don't have to do drugs. I don't have to do weed. I don't have to do like the heavier shit. I don't have to, and I am fortunate for that. If alcohol is my only vice that I have to fucking contain and use my structure that I have around me to contain it, I'm fortunate. But a lot of our brothers and sisters don't have that structure.
No, they don't. They do not. And I've had to like tackle friends who
I
are
lost
raising the fuck
Matt
out.
Wilson, dude. A great friend of mine, a guy that we served together and we did missions together. We did a lot of stuff together, man. And he in his mind he wasn't enough for himself, man.
You know what sucks the worst about, and I never try to get too personal. What sucks the worst about sitting down with people and asking them about their lives is seeing that 1,000 yard stare when they talk about when they talk about another human being, when they vocalize the name of another person, and seeing the light leave their eyes as it left the eyes of the person who they're talking about.
You know, man.
And fuck, dude, it hurts me to see other human beings go through these things where they care about somebody so much. Right? I've been through it, man. I wish I didn't.
And
but
that's why you know that look, man. And the reality is this, dude, is we lose these people, man. They're immortalized in our minds. You don't even know. I carry a bracelet and I cut myself, and there's like injuries that are acquired because of this bracelet.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that next. Who do you wear, brother?
Omar Sotero, man. Omar Sotero wasn't a ranger with me. Omar Sotero wasn't a guy I grew up with. Omar Sotero is a guy that I met in basic training. And this story fucking irks me, dude. And it is the epitome of why I try to make sure that we make an effort to reach out to our brothers and sisters in arms that we serve with, because Omar's a gentleman that I met in basic training. Omar was a year younger than me, and because I joined at 19, he joined at 18, and he joined out of Riverside, California, even though he was from Texas originally. His family was from Texas, and we hit it off as soon as we met, and we were like fucking twins, not for visibly, but like just like everything we liked, the music, everything we hung out. And so through basic, we worked out together. We did things. We were in different platoons together, but somehow we still like found ways to hang out. And I remember having other buddies that were like fucking jealous of our relationships. That my platoon, right? Like, oh, hey, you're my buddy. What are you doing with that guy? It's like, no, dude, you don't get it. Like, this is Omar Sotero, right? So we finish basic. We graduate basic, and we move on to airborne school. He had an airborne contract. His MOS was 11 Charlie, which was a mortar, which I'm not sure if that's still even around anymore. I think it's 11X right now. It's just like, standard infantry.
I got a buddy who's actually under that contract right now.
11
Yes,
Charlie?
it is. I think so.
Okay, so if it's still
As far
around,
as I know, Mortarman, yeah.
Yeah, Mortimer, exactly. So that was his contract. So he didn't have a Ranger contract with him. He just had an airborne contract because he asked for airborne. And I remember him always talking about airborne school and basic. And so we made it to airborne school. And man, I remember this. It was always based off of like just where you sat in the fucking rotation, right? And so when we finished our holdover from basic training to get into airborne school, which is still in Benning, Georgia, I remember he fell in the category of the class that was going to start next, and I fell in the category that was going to do another holdover.
Okay.
So Terrell stood up from that formation, and he walked out, knowing they could have fully just fucking stayed in that formation and gone through.
Mhm.
And he said, "Nope." He sat next to me. And he's like, "No, man." I'm like, "What are you doing, dude? That's your slot." He's like, "No, I don't want you to go by airborne school by yourself." That was so Terrell.
So he sounded to be your brother.
He fucking chose to be my brother. And we went through airborne school together. And during airborne school is when I met. We talked about Sergeant Major Balog, or Master Sergeant Balog, sorry, and the guy that I met, and so I tried to talk him into going Ranger, never did. So after airborne school, we split ways. We wrote each other a couple times, and I saw the last letter that Omar wrote to me, and we lost contact. This was about 2002. I want to say that the last time we actually had any contact with me, 2001. And fast forward, shit, dude, 2020. I'm sitting in my living room in Monroe, Washington, getting ready to move to Vegas, right? And I'm just unboxing all kinds of things, just fucking trying to figure out what we're going to move with to go work over there in Vegas. And I find this box with a bunch of letters, a couple letters from my brother that passed away right back in 2022 or 2002.
Yeah.
And I find this letter of Omar Soltero, and I'm like, where the fuck's Omar at? So I look on Facebook, man, and the first page I find is Remembering Omar Soltero. My heart drops, man. And then I go through, and I start doing my, what we do in our work, and our current line of work is we start referencing, we start finding shit. We have to figure out shit.
You gotta authenticate it.
Yeah.
Make sure it's real.
And
are you sure this is my guy?
So then I find the U.S. Army report, and it's his fucking picture, dude. He was killed back in 2011 on IAD. And he had already gotten out and went back. And so, dude, I went through fucking months of trying to get in contact with one of his family members, reaching out to many family members on Facebook. I don't do anything else aside from Facebook.
Yeah.
And then finally I found the name Stephanie. I won't give the last name, but that was actually his fiance at the time. Found out he had 2 kids. And his youngest kid was named Alan.
No fucking way.
Yeah, dude. There's a guy I never went to combat with, dude. There's a guy I just fucking met in basic and airborne that him and I now I want to get ahead of this and say this. This guy, I got a hold of Stephanie. We exchanged a lot of information, and one of the reasons why he named his son Alan, I was half that reason, right? I wasn't the full reason. But one of his best friends in high school was also named Alan. And his logic was like, all the people that I've met with this name spelled like this have been fucking awesome. I want my son to be named like this. So I've carried Josh Wheeler. If you ever look up that name, Joshua Wheeler. I've had Pat Tillman on my wrist. I've had Jay Blessings. I've had Philip Lear. I've had so many names on my wrist, but the name I now carry and will carry most likely to the day I die is going to be Omar Sotero, man.
Wow.
And that shit hit deep, dude.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. I remember getting the overwhelming gift of my stepfather's. You know, I don't even know why I call him that, man.
That was your dad, dude.
He's my fucking hero, man.
Yeah.
So my dad, his
I get why. Don't feel bad about it.
Shit's weird. You know, he's my dad, and he had this wristlet with his name on it, and when he came back from the military, it was hard for him to give it to me when he came back from being overseas. I don't know why. I'm not privy to that information, but they printed out his name on a wristlet to give to me, and he gave it to me when he came back, and he was crying when he gave it to me, and he told me that he wanted me to have this. And you know, growing up around military, around service based individuals, it never really hit me like a ton of bricks until my boys, you know, people like you. You know, when I say my boys, I don't mean like, oh, Saturday night for the boys, let's go cheat on our wives. I'm talking about people, motherfucking warriors, people who sign up, give their lives for other people to survive.
People that make a difference in one way or another in your life, man.
People that make a difference.
And I won't just hold it down to people that serve, right? But like people that change you in a positive way, man.
Yes,
Your boys.
The boys. And you know what? The women are great too, but I don't have any wristlets with their name on it, unfortunately. Thankfully. And so
exactly.
So he gave me this motherfucking bracelet, and I kept it in my drawer. The only time I've ever been to IKEA. And if you know about IKEA, you know you're the shit. So he gave me the IKEA. I kept it in my over the top bunk bed, and on the bottom was the desk where I did my schoolwork, and I kept this in the left drawer because it was closest to the American flag.
Yeah.
You know, you put the stars to the left when you drape it, and it was so emotional to me to have his bracelet. And he said there was supposed to be a ceremony, and he never finished the statement. He said there's supposed to be a ceremony, and he just walked away. And I never understood why he walked away when he said there was supposed to be a ceremony. I am so thankful. He wasn't even supposed to come home. That there was a guy in his rotation whose wife was pregnant, and he got sent home instead. And thank God he did, because his lungs, if he flies again, he's dead.
Yeah.
And so I was so thankful to have that bracelet, and it's somewhere in my storage.
Jesus,
it's somewhere in my storage. It was supposed to be his name, and they saved that bracelet. They had the bracelet engraved for me, and they didn't tell him.
You know,
they didn't tell him.
You
it was
know,
supposed to be for me.
You know, the reality is, man, it's not about glory, dude, and that's why he didn't tell you what or why.
Yeah,
and you get that, dude.
Yeah.
Every single day, you don't wake up looking to see what kind of glory you're gonna get. You know who does that? These fucking
narcissists.
These Instagram fucking like what do they call them now? Goddamn.
Insta hoes.
Insta hoes, dude. Insta. I won't use the word I'm looking for, but these these people that are just looking for likes or for, hey man, follow me, or
Validation.
Yes, validation, man. That's the word I'm looking for. And that's the people, the narcissism that goes in our community, man, that we cannot get rid of. Those are the millionaires, dude.
I think we can get rid of them, and it takes time. And
You
it's
gotta
not
look away.
like to remove them from society, because
You
I
gotta
don't
look away,
agree
dude.
with harming innocent civilians, of course. But
Agreed.
I think we can
not taking that way either,
defame.
brother. Not taking that way.
Of course, You know, we're
Yeah.
not extremists. I don't.
No,
have
absolutely not, dude. On the contrary, man. I don't wish any physical ill harm on
No,
anybody,
fuck
man.
no, dude. Because they,
Because you know what?
I don't
have
think
a
they can handle it,
family.
Alan. I'm gonna be honest. I've heard some stories about you, man, and I they can have the pass.
No, man. I'm a gentle giant now, dude.
Yeah,
I'm a gentle giant.
I'm thankful for it, and so are they. All jokes aside, man, it's really an honor to sit down with you and just pick your brain. One last question I wanted to ask of you.
Absolutely.
I got explained to me when I was young that service and sacrifice means you give part of you in return for a part of us.
Oh man, you know
what does that statement mean to you,
dude? You know, I gotta.
Because I've never said
man.
it out in person.
No,
you know?
and I gotta tell you this, man. I follow you very closely because you speak a lot of truths that I feel inside, man. You give a voice to a lot of individuals that ultimately, like, we sometimes we don't feel like our voice matters anymore, right?
That sucks.
It does. But understand this, man. What does that mean? What does sacrifice and service mean? Right? What does service and sacrifice mean, man? The word that I could mostly attribute to that is selflessness, man. And there is a certain amount of us that, yes, you guys know my story, man. I signed up because I was not doing good in what I was doing. I was getting shot at. We were getting in fights. My friend had graduated in 2000 in El Monte High School, South El Monte High School. We got in a rumble, dude, and we fucking got in a big fucking, like, 30 fucking
30 on 30, yeah.
And it was fucking stupid, dude. That's the stuff I used to do. What does that mean? Sacrifice? It's like putting yourself aside from that, like putting yourself out of that lifestyle and saying, I'm okay with no longer living in this life if giving my life means that it benefits somebody else.
Just one person?
It doesn't matter if it benefits. It may not save a life, Eddie. You may just fix somebody's life and change the trajectory. You may change. Remember, though, you're not just changing one life. That life you change may change how many others? You don't know. And that's the beauty of it, is that service and sacrifice means this, dude. I will sacrifice myself in the service of whoever it is that needs it. And I will give myself up for that. There's a lot of talk about death. A lot of talk about who needs to die in this world. A lot of people pointing fingers as far as, like, man, that person shouldn't be alive. And I want to kill that person. But those people are selfish. Because they always point at the fact of, like, oh, what would happen if that person died? But they never stop and think, what would happen if I would sacrifice myself? Who could I help in that? How could we be better? What would my life help out? And I'm not always talking about death, man. I hate to chart on just that, right?
But what was your life?
What would my sacrifice be, right? Though, like, right, like what would me changing my trajectory? I do this and I'm miserable. I fucking hate everybody. What if I start doing something that helps other people out, man? and push it. Man, every single day I deal with individuals. And every single day I hear the same thing, man. You know, you're a very positive person. Why is that? And I, think of movie flash of like all the shit that I've gone through from fucking, like click, 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 click.
Yeah,
and
montage.
It's like, montage, thank you. And I'm like, I'm just happy to be here today. And if I can make somebody smile today, man, I'm good. That's it, dude. You don't have to be a politician. You don't have to be a fucking boss or a manager. Just be a person. Working in a restaurant, being a fucking busboy, just smiling at somebody and not being an asshole. Being a service guy in the elevator trade, walking by an individual that's had a really shitty day and say, how can I help you? Even though it's not your job sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
Intervening
is important.
That's how you change it, man. Not splitting us apart. It's bringing us together, man.
100%, brother. Why? I appreciate having you on, man. And
dude,
it's kind of overwhelming, and I don't want to be like no little bitch ass fanboy or anything, but it's overwhelming to hear somebody who's dealt with things occupationally that a lot of people who don't have great homes or come from broken homes strive to be towards on a black versus black, or gang versus gang, drug lord versus drug lord, and you got the fucking little homies out there toting guns and shit. These people try to be like you in American society, and I think it's pathetic and foul. And I wish I could talk to my 16-year-old me and say the same shit. But
I had this conversation with my 16-year-old son, dude.
Well, yeah, but wow, is it amazing to sit down and just talk with somebody who's gone and done violent acts on behalf of good ideology.
Yeah.
Just to come back and preach not to do the same thing in the wrong way. So you're actively directing your own children.
Yeah.
To not do poor things.
That's it. But understand this, man. My family will always know. Don't ever instigate violence. But if violence is placed upon you, react with hell.
Yeah.
And they have the tools and the ability to do it with. If I'm gone. Hope people could understand. If not, honestly, I stopped giving a fuck a long time ago.
Yes, man. I've said it once and I'll say it 100 times. You can let another politician or somebody who wants to get elected tell you to be a better victim, or you can stand up and look at your neighbors who are gay, or you look at your neighbors who are white or different skin color than you.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, let's have a barbecue and let's talk about gun safety. I want to let you know that if something's going wrong at your house, somebody tries to break into your house,
I will
send your kids to my house. It's okay.
I will defend you with my life.
100%.
Either whether you agree with what I have to say or not.
Yeah, and that's what I've told my the neighbors around this house.
Your neighborhood is a lucky neighborhood.
I got some fucking teachers next door.
Yeah.
I got some college graduates next door.
Yeah.
I got Redfin fixing the house next door, but they know
you know what? Yeah. I will run to your house and I will mitigate. I will put my life in front of yours to save your life, just because I believe that you should live.
It's worth the service and sacrifice, and I can't capitalize
on
enough.
That's it, man. That's it. You said it best.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day, brother. Thank you. This has been another lovely episode of Off the Demon Podcast. If you want to hear more, please do reach out. I'd love to have you on or a friend on, or just talk about what separates or connects the words service and sacrifice. And thank you, Alan, for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. And thank you,
Eddie.
thank you for continuing to serve throughout your community and creating a foundation for us young men and women to build off of in this country.
For brethren, ye have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love to serve one another. Thank you for tapping into another episode of Off the Deep End. I'm your slightly less muscular and injured host, Eddie. Thank you so much for listening all the way to this point and helping us start conversations about combating veteran suicide, about how we need to bring warriors in this world. And thank you very much for being here another day. We all contribute our part to life and keeping those around us who have been hurting in the fight still is a step in the right direction for all.